1989. Resistance is futile. We have been invaded. Millions of Americans are hooked. There is no escape.
It hits a pure pleasure center. That pure pleasure center in humans is creating order out of chaos. And that is a basic instinct that everybody has. That's why we build things.
Tetris is one of those rare games that was one of the classics of all time, like Monopoly.
Tetris is all about building walls, a perfect expression of the empire that first developed it.
Tetris was this iconic Soviet game. You look at it, it just reeked of Sovietness.
So how did Tetris escape from Russia? Hank Rogers is a game designer. He sees an early version of Tetris and thinks it's perfect for a new handheld gaming device soon to be launched called Game Boy.
Tetris has very simple square shapes that are very visible on that small screen. And I thought, wow, this is the perfect machine for Tetris.
Rogers knows this could be a killer combo. He just needs to get the license to join the two together before anyone else does. But there's one big problem. The rights are controlled by a government agency in the heart of the evil empire in Moscow. But that doesn't stop Rogers.
2 days later, I was on a plane to Moscow.
Under pressure to reform, President Gorbachev has introduced his own Soviet-style freedoms, allowing somewhat limited free speech and more openness to trade with the West.
He was unusually, amongst Soviet leaders, somewhat honest about the shortcomings of the economy. Often people think of perestroika, the restructuring, as being the sort of the factor that precipitated the collapse of the Soviet economy, but that certainly wasn't the goal. The goal was to save the system and to reform it and therefore preserve it.
But these new reforms don't mean it's easy on the ground. With no contact details and no plan, Rogers sets out to find the mysterious agency that owns Tetris.
Arriving in Moscow was really strange and scary.
Take a look outside here. This is Moscow. It looks pretty gray. That's because it's pretty gray.
It kind of looked like being in a gigantic prison.
With only an interpreter as a bodyguard, Rogers sets off for the agency that holds the valuable rights. But his guide warns him, he won't be allowed in without an appointment.
Being there with a tourist visa, the only thing that I was really allowed to do was take pictures of Moscow. It was definitely a possibility that I was going to end up in a gulag. I didn't know.
Hank Rogers throws down.
Either I leave Moscow with the rights to Tetris for Game Boy, or I leave without, but I'm not coming back.
He bluffs his way into the building and finally meets the men that control Tetris. One of them is the game's creator.
This is Mr. Alexei Pozitnov. He's the author of Tetris.
Why Tetris?
And an unexpected alliance is formed between East and West.
We became friends almost immediately.
I'm the first game designer from someplace else that he got to talk to.
He was the first person I ever met who I could really consider as my colleague.
And together, Alexei and Hank get the deal done. They know what they've got, and the world is about to agree.
The truth is that I think most Americans thought of Tetris as part of their popular culture.
Tetris tore down walls, and not just as part of an addictive game.
Tetris was made by Russians, marketed by Japanese, and sold in the United States. That is sort of 80s globalism in a nutshell.
The addiction to Tetris unites the world.